Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. President Draupadi Murmu held bilateral talks with the President of Botswana, Duma Gideon Boko. Cheetah diplomacy, bilateral ties on agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is back in Delhi, concluding his Bhutan visit. Prime Minister, along with Bhutanese King, inaugurated Kalachakra, Wheel of Time, Empowerment in Thimphu. NIA investigation intensifies. Kulgam police conducts raids at over 200 Jamaat-e-Islami locations. Another doctor, Tajamul Malik, detained in Srinagar in connection with the Delhi bomb blast. And India reaffirms commitment to equity, climate justice and multilateralism at COP30, underlines that climate finance continues to be the key barrier to raised ambition, calls for equitable access to climate technologies. And on to the details now. After significant engagements, Prime Minister Modi is back in the national capital after concluding a productive state visit to Bhutan. Well, in a special gesture, Bhutanese King came to see off Prime Minister Modi at the airport. This visit will further deepen the bilateral friendship and advance cooperation in various areas between the two countries. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on the second and final day of his state visit to Bhutan, had the honour of inaugurating Kalachakra, Wheel of Time, Empowerment with King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk, and His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo. It was presided over by His Holiness the J. Khenpo, which made it even more special. This is an important ritual with great cultural significance for Buddhists around the world. Well, the Kalachakra Empowerment is a part of the ongoing Global Peace Prayer Festival, which has brought together devotees and scholars of Buddhism to Bhutan. Bhutanese Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay, on his part, called Prime Minister Modi an accomplished spiritual master who inaugurated and blessed the sacred Kalachakra Empowerment. Well, earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a wonderful meeting with His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo. Prime Minister appreciated his extensive efforts over the years towards further cementing India-Bhutan ties. Now, the two sides discussed cooperation in energy, trade, technology and connectivity. Prime Minister Modi also lauded the progress in the Gelifu Mindfulness City project, which aligns with India's Act East policy. Well, President Draupadi Murmu also held bilateral talks with her counterpart Duma Boko in Botswana on a 3-day visit to the country. The two leaders also held delegation-level talks, expressing solidarity and cooperation between the two countries. Both the leaders expressed solidarity and cooperation between India and Botswana. The President of India said that the two countries will engage in further cooperation in areas like health and pharmaceuticals. The President of Botswana also extended his heartiest welcome to the Indian President for the first ever state visit of an Indian head of state to Botswana. Duma Boko also praised India's vibrant democracy and called India as the mother of democracy. One MOU was agreed upon in the health and pharmaceutical sector. Botswana will also donate 8 cheetahs to India as a goodwill gesture and for India's shared commitment to wildlife conservation. Also, the President will then visit the diamond trading company for a briefing on the diamond sector. Traditionally, the trade between the two countries has been dominated by diamonds and gems. She will then deliver the address to the National Assembly of Botswana, followed by a visit to the 3 Dikgosi Monument bronze sculpture in the capital city of Gaborone. Also, the statues depict 3 Dikgosi or tribal chiefs who played important roles in Botswana's independence. The visit will be followed by a banquet. And now let's take a look at India-Botswana bilateral relations. Well, the diplomatic relations between India and Botswana were established immediately after Botswana independence in 1966. India established its resident diplomatic mission in Gaborone, Botswana in 1987. The 4th Foreign Office consultations were held in Gaborone on 14 December 2023 when the two sides exchanged views on political development, cooperation, trade and investment, defense, agriculture, consular, cultural and establishment-related matters. Well, Indian Council of Cultural Relations scholarships are very popular in Botswana. During 2024-25, 54 Botswana students were selected for scholarship from 500 applicants. Now, since the last 10 years, more than 1,300 Botswana candidates have been awarded scholarships. Also, Botswana candidates trained under ITEC, ICCR, IAF's agriculture, scholarships, etc. With Botswana, India holds a historic partnership in the defense sector also. Well, India and Botswana share a strong trade relationship also, with the diamonds being the major commodity in both imports and exports. Over 45 diamond cutting and polishing businesses operate in Botswana, with majority of them owned by Indian diamond companies. Now, the Indian businesses have a notable their presence in Botswana, contributing to local employment and skill development. Well, talking about relations between India and Africa, they are characterized by a history of solidarity, growing diplomatic engagement and strong economic and development partnerships. India's approach is rooted in South-South cooperation, focusing on capacity building, infrastructure and development assistance, while also advocating for African representation in global forums. Now, historical and political relations. India supported Africa's liberation and anti-apartheid movements. India and several African nations co-founded the non-aligned movement. Also, African Union became a G20 member during India's 2023 presidency. Moreover, 41 African leaders joined the 2015 India-Africa Summit. And in July 2019, India announced new embassies in 18 African nations. Also, India extended e-visa facilities to 33 African countries. First, a naval maritime exercise between India and Africa came in April 2025. Now, India supported Africa during the COVID-19 pandemic with medicines, vaccines and pharmaceutical products at affordable cost also. Talking about economic and commercial relations, India-Africa trade reached approximately $83.34 billion in 2023-24, and India is Africa's third largest trading partner. Also, mutual trade between India and African nations reached nearly $100 billion. Also, Indian cumulative investment in Africa amounts to about $75 billion. Moreover, India offered non-reciprocal duty-free market access to least developed countries. This was done through the duty-free tariff preference scheme. Now, the trade in sectors like oil and gas, machinery, automobiles, expanding and food, and also African Continental Free Trade Area came into force in January 2021. Now, India is also collaborating with 5 African countries in the development of digital public infrastructure. Moving on, talking about development partnership, IDEC program supports human resource development and capacity building in South Africa. And over the past decade, credit lines worth more than $12 billion have been allocated for Africa. Moreover, grant assistance of $700 million has been given to African countries. Meanwhile, vocational training centers have also been opened in 8 African countries, and over 37,000 Africans trained in India under IDEC/ICCR scholarships in the last 10 years have been given. And talking about the modernization plans of Indian Army, it is well aligned with the country's aspiration of becoming a global power. Well, at the Delhi Defence Dialogue on Wednesday, Indian Army Chief underlined that military diplomacy has been a game changer for the second largest army of the world. Vishal Baristo reports for more.
On modernization of the Indian Army, role of new age technology, the Army Chief assured the country that the modernization plan is in track and with military diplomacy aligns with India's aspiration of becoming a global military power.
I remember the External Affairs Minister when he, in the month of October last year, addressed all the army commanders. He said that the army needs to work more on the military diplomacy. Joint operations in United Nations, as you see, that we are always within the first 5 as far as the troop contributing countries are concerned. This time 32 countries chiefs had come. It was a surprise to us also. We never expected this kind of a prompt response. It's because the kind of impressions Indian troops have left the world over.
Addressing military experts from the country and abroad, Dr. Sameer V. Kamath, Secretary of the Department of Defense R&D and Chairman DRDO, stressed on the need for enhancing collaboration, co-development and co-production. He announced that in the next 5 years, India will double its budget for R&D, which is at present 5% of the total defense budget.
As a nation, we have to improve our R&D capabilities and spending, because in a lot of these technologies, the civilian sector actually is ahead of defense. If you look at AI, communication, semiconductors, in all these critical technologies, the civilian sector is far ahead of the military sector. So we have to increase the spending on civilian R&D too.
The 2-day Delhi Defence Dialogue deliberates on harnessing new age technology for defence capability development. Vishal Baristo's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar participates in the G7 Foreign Ministers meet in Canada. Our nation observes the Public Service Broadcasting Day today.
This week on Defence Dynamic, we decode why for India a unified rocket force is no longer an option but a strategic necessity, which Asian navies are redefining the undersea power balance in the Indian Ocean, and why Pakistan's Hangoor-class submarine may not be the game changer it's claimed to be. We break down India's engine dream as Defence Minister calls to build jet engines in India by Indians and on Indian soil. And in my take, how the Russia-Iran railway corridor is redrawing the map of Eurasian geopolitics. Catch the sharpest insights on power, posture and strategy this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, in one of the largest coordinated operations in recent years, police in South and North Kashmir have raided more than 225 locations linked to the banned Jamaat-e-Islami. Now, the crackdown carried out in Kulgam and Sopore districts is part of a wider campaign to dismantle the terrorist and separatist support networks. During the past 4 days, around 400 cordon and search operations have been launched across the district. focusing on areas once associated with terrorist activity and overground workers. Nearly 500 individuals with suspected links to banned organizations such as JEL and JKNOPs have been interrogated, with many detained under preventive laws and shifted to district jail Mutton in Anantnag. Now, police also seized incriminating documents, digital devices and other materials of evidentiary value. In a related development, another doctor, Tejamul Malik from DH Pora, Kulgam, was detained in Srinagar in connection with the Delhi bomb blast. Meanwhile, the NIA investigation of the car blast near the Red Fort has intensified. The team is carrying investigation at various places. The team visited the blast scene and have again checked the numbers of all the vehicles that were parked there at the time of the blast. Now, NIA officials are also inquiring from their owners as to how long the vehicles were parked there. The team is investigating as to whether these vehicles also had any role in the blast. The NIA team members were seen investigating these vehicles as well. Also, the anti-terrorism squad in Maharashtra conducted a major operation in Mumra in Kausa, where they raided the home of teacher Ibrahim Abidi. During the raid, the ATS seized several electronic devices and digital evidence from the house. These materials are being technically analyzed now. After a search, ATS officers also detained Ibrahim and took him for questioning. Recently, the Maharashtra Anti-Terrorism Squad busted a major terrorist module in Pune as well. The suspect arrested in this operation, Zubair, is expected to be questioned about terrorist activities. Zubair is an engineer by profession and worked for a major IT company in Pune. And India has slammed Pakistan for claiming that New Delhi had something to do with the Tuesday's blast outside a court in Islamabad. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal in a statement said, and I quote, India unequivocally rejects the baseless and unfounded allegations being made by an obviously deleterious Pakistani leadership. It is a predictable tactic by Pakistan to concoct false narratives against India in order to deflect the attention of its own public from the ongoing military-inspired constitutional subversion and power grab unfolding within the country. The international community is well aware of the reality and will not be misled by Pakistan's desperate diversionary ploys, unquote. And moving on, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is visiting Canada today to participate in the G7 Foreign Ministers Meet, on the sidelines of which he held bilateral meetings with his counterparts, including UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. The leaders affirmed the India-UK Vision 2035 for further strengthening cooperation between New Delhi and London across key sectors. Dr. Jaishankar also met his German counterpart, Johann Vadeful, in Niagara. The leaders discussed advancing strategic partnership and India-EU ties and also exchanged views on West Asia, Indo-Pacific and Afghanistan. He also then met Foreign Minister Brazil, Moura Vieira. The leaders recognized the recent progress in bilateral cooperation and asserted that two sides are actively exploring opportunities for greater trade, investment, health and technology cooperation. Dr. Jaishankar also met French counterpart Jean-Noël Barrot. Leaders took stock of the strategic partnership and discussed a deepening cooperation in multilateral and plurilateral formats. Dr. Jaishankar also caught up with South African Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola in Niagara. Besides, the External Affairs Minister also met his Mexican counterpart, Dr. Juan Raymond de la Fuente. Two leaders discussed further advancing our cooperation across business, trade, health and pharmaceuticals and science and technology. Well, the ministry added that the participation of the External Affairs Minister reflects India's continued commitment to working with international partners in addressing global challenges and fostering the voice of the Global South in international forums. And moving on, India and Cuba signed a MOU in Havana comprising a treaty on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters and a protocol on cultural exchange and cooperation. Well, the signing took place during a meeting between India's Minister of State for External Affairs and Textiles, Pabitra Margarita, and Gerardo Penalver Portal, Cuba's acting Minister of Foreign Affairs. Pabitra Margarita is on an official visit to Cuba. Penalver Portal emphasized the priority of continuing to develop ongoing political dialogue and economic and trade cooperation with India. Well, he also emphasized the value of his cooperation and expressed gratitude for the solidarity offered by India following the hurricanes that struck the Cuban archipelago in recent years. And moving on, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is hosting the International Conference on Green Hydrogen on the 11th and 12th of November at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. Addressing the conference, Union Minister of State Dr. Jitendra Singh said that India has emerged as a global torchbearer in linking economic progress with environmental sustainability, a vision inspired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's goal of achieving net zero by the year 2070. DD India correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya has more on this exclusive interview with Dr. Jitendra Singh. Let's listen in.
The third edition of the Green Hydrogen Summit is happening. We are, leapfrogging, other countries. Now we are in a position to export and have that cutting edge technology. Could you share more detail on that?
No, you will recall that soon this government came in 2014. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi took a lead in announcing to the world that look here, we will be net zero by 2070. And that also conveyed on a message, a loud message to the rest of the world that no longer India is trailing behind. So now we are in the mainstream of the world flagship priorities. Secondly, as Prime Minister keeps reiterating, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Viksit Bharat, if we have to actually and scientifically look for self-reliance, we have to reduce our dependence on petroleum imports. And for that, the important focus has to be A, on green hydrogen, B, on nuclear energy, C, on biofuels. And you would appreciate that this is a government under Prime Minister which had the courage to break all the taboos of the past and to open up even the nuclear sector to private players.
That's right. So I wanted to ask you, because Prime Minister also mentioned the 3 E's, and you mentioned that also. How are we placed in that? And also, we are now planning to have increased production of green hydrogen. I remember the last time there was a problem with the electrolyzer situation, but that has also been taken care of. We are now getting self-reliant on all that aspect.
No, of course, the 3 E's, of course, the employment, economy and environment, all the 3 getting addressed through this approach. And I think the big turnover by this government is that we do not have any inhibitions or reservations in having private participation in an extensive manner, which was not the case earlier. There was a certain amount of a feudal mindset, and also even the private sector looked up to government with little expectation, and government looked up to the private sector with sometimes certain amount of skepticism. So there is now a very healthy synergy happening. The age of silos is over. So we are, through these means, addressing the concerns of environment, as you rightly said, addressing the concerns of employment, obviously will generate, and the next industrial revolution, if it is going to be clean energy driven and biotechnology driven, we are already into it.
Much appreciated your time. So that was Minister stating that a clean energy revolution is about to happen. Synergy is working in the government. With Campus and Golf Grid, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
While India on Tuesday also reaffirmed its firm commitment to multilateralism and equity in global climate action at the opening plenary of the UNFCCC COP30 in Belém, Brazil, delivering statements on behalf of the basic group, including Brazil, South Africa, India and China and the like-minded developing countries group. India emphasized that Article 9.1 of the Paris Agreement places a binding responsibility on the developed countries to provide financial resources to the developing nations. Now, it said adaptation finance must increase 15-fold. Well, it will also meet the needs of billions of vulnerable people who have contributed the least to global warming. India reminded the developed countries of their historical and ongoing responsibilities, urging them to reach net zero earlier, invest in negative emissions technologies and meet their long-standing finance and technology commitments. And meanwhile, tensions flared at the COP30 summit in Belem as dozens of indigenous protesters forced their way into the venue. The group demanded stronger recognition of indigenous rights in forest management also. Chaos erupted outside the COP30 climate summit in Brazil in Belem as indigenous protesters clashed with security personnel while attempting to enter the UN compound. The demonstrators, waving flags and carrying signs reading "Our land is not for sale," demanded access to the talks attended by global delegates. Also, the protest was part of a larger march of hundreds rallying for land rights and environmental protection. Meanwhile, earlier this week, dozens of indigenous leaders arrived to join the summit, pressing for greater involvement in decisions on forest management. A prominent leader said frustration is mounting over ongoing industrial and development projects threatening the Amazon's ecology. And moving on, the second and the last phase of Bihar elections concluded on Tuesday, recording a voter turnout of 66.91%, which is the highest since first Bihar elections in the year 1951. Notably, the turnout in the first phase of election was 60.18%. On Tuesday, polling was held on 122 constituencies in 20 districts. 1,302 candidates were in the fray. Counting of votes will take place on the 14th of November. And moving on, India and Sri Lanka have come together to celebrate Sanskrit as a shared civilizational legacy at the week-long Bharat-Sri Lanka Sanskrit Mahotsav in Colombo. Well, the Bharat-Sri Lanka Sanskrit Mahotsav was inaugurated at the University of Colombo by High Commissioner of India Santosh Jha and Sri Lanka's Deputy Minister of Education and Higher Education Dr. Madhura Sineviratna. The week-long festival celebrates Sanskrit as the timeless language of wisdom, harmony and knowledge. Jointly organized by the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Centre, Sri Lanka's Ministry of Education, the Central Sanskrit University and the India-Sri Lanka Foundation. The festival includes workshops, lectures and cultural performances highlighting Sanskrit's living influence across generations. Now, the High Commissioner Santosh Jha emphasized Sanskrit's role in strengthening cultural and educational ties between India and Sri Lanka.
Sanskrit functioned as a vital link connecting India and Sri Lanka through shared religious, philosophical and artistic traditions. Let us remember that Sanskrit is not merely a language of the past, but a timeless voice of wisdom that continues to guide our present and inspire our future.
In Sri Lankan Minister Dr. Sineviratna highlighted that Sanskrit is an ancient link between global philosophy, language and wisdom.
Sanskrit language forms an ancient integral part of this shared heritage. Sanskrit is a bridge between globally for philosophy, linguistics, and the wisdom.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Every year, November 12th marks the Public Service Broadcasting Day. It was on this day the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, delivered his first and only radio address to the nation. Officials of the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, Mumbai, arrested 11 persons allegedly involved in a clothes smuggling syndicate on Wednesday. The agency also seized 11.88 kg of gold and 8.77 kg of silver that was being traded off in the local market through a syndicate. Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, is on an official visit to the United States from November 12 to 17, 2025. The visit underscores the Indian Navy's commitment to deepening cooperation with the U.S. Navy towards realizing the vision of a free, open, inclusive and rules-based Indo-Pacific. And still to come on DD India Newshour. Foreseeing a potential end to the shutdown, US Supreme Court extends the freeze on the SNAP food program in November. Iraqis voted in parliamentary elections on Tuesday, in which Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani was seeking a second term.
I have been a strong critic of British colonialism, but I don't personally believe that we can blame everything on the British anymore. Kerala, in 1957, elected a communist government, the first ever democratically elected communist government anywhere in the world.
Can the Kerala model be implemented in other Indian states as well?
Very good question to which I can't give you a simple answer.
Welcome back. You're watching TV India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. President Draupadi Murmu held bilateral talks with the President of Botswana, Duma Gideon Boko. Cheetah diplomacy, bilateral ties on agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is back in Delhi, concluding his Bhutan visit. Prime Minister, along with Bhutanese King, inaugurated Kalachakra Wheel of Time Empowerment in Thimphu. NI investigation intensifies. Kulgam police conducts raids at over 200 Jamaat-e-Islami locations. Another doctor, Tejamul Malik, detained in Srinagar in connection with the Delhi bomb blast. And India reaffirms commitment to equity, climate justice and multilateralism at COP30, underlines that climate finance continues to be the key barrier to raised ambition, calls for equitable access to climate technologies. And moving on, US House of Representatives is expected to vote on Wednesday on a Senate-passed funding bill to reopen the government. Now, the final legislation extends funding for most agencies until January 30th, while including 3 full-year funding bills for some parts of the government. House of Republicans are confident that the package will clear the lower chamber. President Donald Trump is expected to sign it into law. Also, the Senate approved the deal on Monday night, and House Speaker Mike Johnson has said he expects it to pass his chamber as well. Meanwhile, members of the House of Representatives headed back to Washington on Tuesday after a 53-day break, braving the congestion at the nation's tangled airports for a vote that could bring the longest U.S. government shutdown in history to a close now. With nearly 1,200 flights cancelled on Tuesday due to the shutdown, lawmakers, including Republican representatives Rick Crawford of Arkansas and Trent Kelly of Mississippi, said they were carpooling to the Capitol, while Representative Derek Van Orden said he was making the 16-hour drive from Wisconsin on his motorcycle. Well, with the potential end to the government shutdown in sight, the U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday extended a freeze on the federal judge's ruling that would require the Trump administration to fully fund the SNAP food program in November. The decision means the government, for now, does not have to distribute about $4 billion in additional SNAP funding as required by Rhode Island-based U.S. District Judge John McConnell. Now, the Supreme Court block remains in place until midnight on Thursday. The case would likely become moot if the shutdown ends, as the bipartisan bill to reopen the government would fully fund the SNAP program through September of next year. Now, the House is expected to vote tomorrow on the Senate-passed measure to end the record-long shutdown. Nearly 42 million people rely on the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as food stamps. And now let's take you live to the signing of or exchange of MOU.
Thank President Boko as well as the government and people of the Republic of Botswana for the warm welcome extended to me and my delegation, which includes our Minister of State Sri B. Samanna as well as two members of Parliament Sri P. Baswa and Srimati D.K. Aruna. My visit marks an important milestone for our bilateral relations as it is the first ever presidential visit from India to Botswana. It also assumes significance in view of the approaching 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between our two countries in 2026. This morning, I had a very productive meeting with President Boko, followed by fruitful delegation level talks. Our discussions covered the full range of bilateral, regional, and global issues of mutual interest. We reaffirmed the deep and friendly ties between India and Botswana founded on shared democratic values and mutual respect. We agreed to expand cooperation in key sectors, including trade and investment, agriculture, renewable energy, health, education, skill development, defense, and digital technology. We witnessed the signing of an important agreement which will help in providing easy access of good quality and affordable Indian medicines to the citizens of Botswana. I also conveyed to President Boko India's decision to send essential ARV medicines as requested by Government of Botswana. We are encouraged by the growing participation of Indian companies in Botswana's economic development, particularly in the diamond sector. We have also agreed to strengthen collaboration in sectors such as agro-processing, pharmaceuticals, education, skilling and capacity building. I conveyed to President Boko India's firm commitment to working closely with Botswana to further deepen our ties as well as India's commitment to expanding its partnership with the African region, including within the framework of India-Africa Forum Summit. It gives me special pleasure to note that Botswana is to reintroduce cheetahs in India under Project Cheetah. This is a unique wildlife conservation initiative of Government of India which aims to restore the cheetah to India's ecosystems. I must thank President Boko and the people of Botswana to agreeing to send their cheetahs to India. We will take good care of them. Later today, I will have the opportunity to address the National Assembly of Botswana. I also look forward to exchanging views with the Vice President of Botswana, Speaker of the Parliament and other dignitaries and discuss ways to strengthen cooperation between our two countries. I am also looking forward to interacting with members of the Indian community here who act as living bridge between the two countries. Your Excellency, once again, I extend my sincere thanks to you for your gracious hospitality and welcome. I am confident that my visit will further consolidate the multifaceted partnership between India and Botswana and take it to new heights in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Well, you were watching live from Botswana, where President Draupadi Murmu is, of course, on a 3-day visit. India-Botswana held delegation-level talks as well earlier. This is the first ever visit of an Indian president to Botswana. President Murmu is on a 6-day state visit to the two countries, Angola and Botswana. This is the second leg of her visit. And the president will then visit the diamond trading company later for a briefing on the diamond sector. Traditionally, the trade between the two countries has been dominated by diamond and gems, and she will then deliver the address to the National Assembly of Botswana, followed by a visit to 3 Decosi Monument bronze sculpture in the capital city of Gaborone. Well, the statues depict 3 Decosi or tribal chiefs who played important roles in Botswana's independence as well. And moving on, a U.S. aircraft carrier strike group, Gerald Ford, has moved into the Latin American region, escalating a military buildup that has deepened tensions with Venezuela. Now, the arrival of the strike group, which was ordered to the region by President Donald Trump last month, comes amid ongoing strikes against alleged drug boats and tensions with Venezuela. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly alleged that the U.S. buildup is designed to drive him from power. The U.S. has so far carried out at least 19 strikes against boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The Ford, which was commissioned in 2017, is the United States' newest aircraft carrier and the world's largest, with more than 5,000 sailors aboard. And Venezuela's National Assembly approved a new law establishing an integral defense command of the nation on Tuesday. The legislation, which passed its second reading, was originally proposed by President Nicolas Maduro and Defense Minister Vladimir Pedrino Lopez and had received unanimous approval in its first reading on October 10th. Now, during the session, President George Rodriguez accused the United States of military threats and attempting regime change to seize the country's natural resources, including oil, rare earths and precious minerals. The law, comprising 3 titles and 35 articles, establishes shared responsibility between the state and all Venezuelan citizens for defending against internal and external threats. Now, members of Venezuela's armed forces attended the session as special guests, witnessing the approval of legislation. And Ukraine's top military commander Alexander Syrsky said on Tuesday that the situation has significantly worsened in parts of the southeastern Zaporizhia region. He said Russian forces, using their numerical advantage in troops and equipment, have captured 3 settlements in the Alexandrivka and Huliapol directions. Now, Ukraine's military said that around 300 Russian soldiers are currently inside the embattled city of Pokrovsk. Meanwhile, Russian authorities said its air defense units destroyed 22 Ukrainian drones overnight, including one heading towards Moscow. A separate Ukrainian drone strike sparked a fire in an industrial zone in Russia's southern Stavropol region, though no casualties were reported there. And moving on, Iraqis voted in parliamentary elections on Tuesday, in which Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani was seeking a second term. The polling closed with low turnout, marked by tight security and a boycott by the major political bloc. Turnout in Iraq's 6th parliamentary election reached just over 23% as of midday. Preliminary results were due to be announced during the next 48 hours, with the final outcome expected next week. Now, Sudani's bloc was forecast to win the most seats, but fall short of a majority, potentially meaning months of post-election talks among the Shiite and Sunni Muslim as well as Kurdish parties. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Marks & Spencer is overhauling its supply chain from factory to floor as part of a strategy to double annual online non-food sales to nearly $4 billion. The retailer's fashion, home and beauty head has said the 141-year-old brand has recovered from an April cyber attack, with sales up by 9% in 3 years and market share climbing to 10.5%. Marks & Spencer now aims to strengthen its omni-channel retail presence. A rare 9.51 carat vivid blue diamond known as the Melon Blue was sold for $25 million as Christie's autumn auction in Geneva. Making its debut on the auction block, the internally flawless pear-shaped gem was mounted on a diamond-paved ring. In Kampala, Uganda, discarded cow horns are being given a new life as 20 eyeglass frames. Wazi Vision, founded by Brenda Katviskay, aims to make vision care affordable after realizing how costly eye tests were, even with insurance. And still to come on DD India Newshour. Google to invest $6.4 billion in cloud infrastructure in Germany. And India clinched 2 more silver medals at the Shooting World Championship in Egypt.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kurana and on to some business news now. Alphabet's Google will invest $6.41 billion in Germany in the coming years in a push to expand its infrastructure and data center capacity in Europe's largest economy. The plan includes a new data center in Dietzenbach, close to Frankfurt, as well as the expansion of the US company's site in the city of Hanau, also in the central German state of Hesse. Google's head in Germany said the plan was likely to secure a total of 9,000 indirect jobs in the region. Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil said Google's investment plan was a truly important signal for Germany as a business location, which follows a $1.2 billion AI partnership between Deutsche Telekom and NVIDIA announcing last week. Germany has been trying to lure in investors and help boost its struggling economy, which has been subject to high cost and red tape. Well, November 12th marks the birth anniversary of one of India's greatest naturalists, Dr. Salim Ali, the bird man of India. His passion for the birds transformed how India saw its skies and its wildlife. Here's a look at this remarkable journey.
Born in 1896 in Bombay, Dr. Salim Ali's love for birds began with a childhood curiosity, a sparrow with a yellow patch. When he took it to the Bombay Natural History Society, a chance meeting with W.S. Millard opened the world of ornithology to him, and India would never look back.
He had immense contribution towards this subject, ornithology, and he took this up right into his teens. In fact, he was a keen bird watcher, and then he got trained in systematic ornithology and different aspects of this subject. Then he started working with BNHS, that is Bombay Natural History Society. While working with this organization, he did lot of surveys, bird surveys across the length and breadth of India. So he collected first-hand information on the birds of India.
The first Indian to study birds systematically, Dr. Ali spent 6 decades documenting India's avian wealth. Trained in Germany under famed ornithologist Professor Stresemann, he returned home to find no job, so he created his own, offering to conduct bird surveys across India's princely states. After independence, he revived the Bombay Natural History Society. His efforts helped protect sanctuaries like Kuladio in Rajasthan and Silent Valley in Kerala. Honored with Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan and global recognitions, Dr. Ali became the face of Indian ornithology. Dr. Ali passed away in 1987 at the age of 91, leaving behind a priceless legacy. His research and writings, especially the Book of Indian Birds continue to guide generations. Dr. Ali didn't just teach India to watch birds, he taught us to understand and protect them. Meghna Dev's report for DD India.
Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. All 5 Indian chess players, including Grandmasters Arjun Erikaisi and Ramesh Babu Pragananda, drew their opening games of the 4th round of the FIDE World Cup in Goa. Erikaisi faced little difficulty against Peter Leko, who seemed content with the draw while playing with the white pieces. The Indian Grandmaster could play aggressively in the return game. Pragananda was in a worse position when Daniel Dubov decided to split points. It was apparent that Dubov was hoping to take his chances in the subsequent match. Grandmaster Pentala Harikrishna, Pranav Venkatesh and Karthik Venkataraman also settled for draws against their opponents. And India clinched 2 more silver medals at the Shooting World Championship in Egypt. Pair of Samrat Rana and Isha Singh won silver medal in the 10-meter air pistol mixed team event in Cairo. Well, the Indian duo topped the qualification round and set up a gold medal match against China. However, they had to settle for second best in the medal match as they lost 16 points to 10. Meanwhile, Aishwarya Pratap Singh Tomar also claimed a silver medal in the men's 50-meter rifle 3-position event. Early in the day, he equalled the qualification world record. Now, the 2 medals took India's overall tally to 11, including 3 gold, 5 silver and 3 bronze. Only China, with 14 medals, is ahead in the standings. And Carlos Alcaraz battled to victory over Taylor Fritz at the ATP Finals as he moved 1 win away from securing the #1 ranking for the 2nd time this year. The 5-time Grand Slam champion clinched a 6-7, 7-5, 6-3 victory over last year's runner-up Fritz in Turin. Alcaraz, who was replaced by rival Jannik Sinner as world #1 following the Paris Masters earlier this month, will finish 2025 at the top of the rankings if he beats home hope Lorenzo Musetti on Thursday. Sinner has to successfully defend his finals title to have any chance of ending the season as #1 for a 2nd straight year. Meanwhile, Italy's Lorenzo Musetti beat Alex de Minaur 7-5, 3-6, 7-5 in a dramatic group stage encounter. Also 9th seed Musetti looked down and out with de Minaur serving for the match, but Musetti made a stunning comeback to seal the match. And Lamine Yamal was released from Spain's squad ahead of their World Cup qualifiers against Georgia and Turkey after treatment for a groin injury. Well, the 18-year-old Barcelona winger, who has missed 5 matches for his club due to the issue, had a radio frequency operation. Spain top Group E with 12 points from 4 matches, scoring 15 goals and conceding none. They face Georgia on Saturday in Tbilisi before hosting Turkey on Tuesday in Seville. Well, Spain will qualify for the finals if they defeat Georgia and Turkey. Well, Australia suffered a double injury scare ahead of the first Ashes test against England, with baseman Josh Hazlewood and Sean Abbott undergoing assessments for hamstring niggles. Now, the test spearhead Hazlewood and Abbott both left the Sydney cricket ground during Sheffield Shield clash between New South Wales and Victoria on Wednesday. Australia already without captain Pat Cummins for at least the opening test in Perth next week due to injury, and losing Hazlewood would be a serious blow. Also, Scott Boland is set to replace Cummins in the attack, which also contains left armour Mitchell Starc and uncapped Brenton Doggett. And preparations for the 2026 Glasgow Commonwealth Games are picking up pace now. As part of the build-up, the King's Baton Relay was unveiled in New Delhi on Tuesday. Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia and British High Commissioner to India Lindy Cameron attended the event. This edition of the relay is unique because for the first time, each country will have its own baton reflecting the civilization and culture of the respective Commonwealth nations. Now, the baton will travel through all 74 Commonwealth countries and territories, promoting hope, unity and collaboration. Notably, the baton carries a message from the head of the Commonwealth, which is read during the opening ceremony also. Also, the 2026 Commonwealth Games will be held at Glasgow in Scotland from 23rd of July to 2nd of August next year.
बेटन सारे देश में जाएगी ये संदेश लेके, फ्रेंडशिप का, इक्वलिटी का, स्पोर्ट्समैनशिप का। दोस्तों, देश बदल रहा है, देश आगे बढ़ रहा है, नया भारत बन रहा है। ये नया भारत बड़े स्पोर्ट्स टूर्नामेंट भी कर सकता है। ए न्यू इंडिया वर्ल्ड कप आयोजित भी करता है और वर्ल्ड कप जीतता भी है। ए न्यू इंडिया है। आने वाले दिनों में हम स्पोर्ट्स में बेस्ट परफॉर्मेंस करेंगे।
Well, in the historic village of Cluny in southeastern France, researchers have identified the demeure de Hypothèque as the oldest dated house in the country. Using tree ring analysis, where scientists determined that its wooden beams were cut in the year 1091. The medieval home has sheltered around 50 generations, according to its current owner, a retired architect devoted to preserving its rich history. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.